All right, here we are. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Anthony Parent of IRSMedic. Today is Thursday, March 20th, and so we have a bunch of topics coming up today. We're going to be talking about the PFIC response from Treasury, the comments on PFICs. That's a pretty important one going on. Number two, we're going to go over FinCEN's $200 cash transaction crackdown, that if you use cash, you have to file a FinCEN Form 105, or you're going to be subject to the same penalty regime as the FBAR. And then number three, we're going to be talking about the future of Social Security. Our guest, Keith Redmond, has some insider information about what's going on with DOGE and Social Security cuts, as he is in the Beltway, and he has his real pulse to the ground here. And also, we're going to get going with this, and we're going to be talking about PFICs first. John is going to skip out after that, because at 8:30, we're going to start a new podcast, because we have some incredible news, this Edelman indictment. John's going to do a research. He's going to, after we talk about PFICs, John's going to go finish his research, and then we're going to have a new podcast at 8:30. So we're going to do this a little differently today, because there's so much news going on, and this is why we tell people to subscribe. There is so much going on right now. So let's go over to the PFIC update, and I'm going to go to John to seatnows.com. John is on seatnow.com. I'm going to do a screen share to sort of give you what's going on with this. Let's see here. Let's get to your screen share here of Seat, and I think here it is. Okay, great. So,
and Seat is Stop Extraterritorial American Taxation.
That's right. Yeah, and John is a big part of Seat. We've talked about Seat a lot on this show. And they've been very, very, very helpful, because they're powered by John. So
but both he and I are co-founders.
Oh, I didn't know you were too. Oh my God, Keith, I am sorry.
That's
sorry,
no
Keith. I didn't
problem.
know that. All right, thanks. All right. Well, let's get to it here. So here it is. So I'm going to open it up to John. John, so what happened, and what's the response here? So we have the good, the bad, and the ugly on this, right?
Okay, that's the post. That's the post you're looking at. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Of course, I'm looking at the good.
So basically, let's begin. All right, with the premise that PFICs are a gigantic problem for Americans abroad. Let's separate that, whatever they may be. Okay, let's not get into the discussion, Dave, whether a foreign mutual fund is or is not a PFIC. I agree that that's debatable, but not relevant really for this discussion, where we're going to assume that they actually are. If they are, then Form 8621 is, of course, the thing that's supposed to be filed on this stuff. Now, every set number of years, they have to send out a notice where they're going to ask questions about, is the form working properly or not. And, of course, public comments I doubt they're encouraged, but they're certainly required by law and accepted. Now, Seat, or actually varying people write these. I wrote this particular one in November, put together a submission, and I'd completely forgotten about it until Treasury's response came down on March 1st. But I do remember when I was writing it, was trying to figure out how to make the submission relevant, right? Because they were really asking about the form and not about the policy behind the PFICs, okay? So, I did sort of the best I could. About half of the suggestions I made, were trying to impress on Treasury that they had regulatory authority to make modifications. But still, what you're up against is that this is a request for comments on specific Form 8621. And then I realized that a discussion that I've had with tax preparers over the years has been how to calculate whether there's an excess distribution, and whether that's done in the currency of the mutual fund or whether it's done in US dollars after a conversion. And I realized that the form does not make that clear. So I focused on that and linked that to the part of the Internal Revenue Code that makes it clear that it's the currency of the mutual fund that's used. And actually, they agreed, okay, to make that change in the form. So, that is a victory.
Hey!
I mean, if I were to die after this podcast, I guess I could say I accomplished something with my life, right? Okay.
Hey, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good, John. All right. So
okay. There were lots and lots of comments submitted. Most of these were orchestrated, and I don't mean that in a pejorative sense. I mean it in a complimentary sense by Democrats Abroad Taxation Task Force, who has a large reach and was able to get something like 1,100 people to write in complaining about, the U.S. Treatment of these things.
Okay. So, all right. Thank you for John, because I was going to ask you that question. Well, how many comments came in, and how many of them were related to the mutual fund PFIC treatment? And you're saying, look, we had like probably 1,100 comments.
1,100 from, just Americans abroad on the ground,
Just right. Just and thanks to Democrats abroad. And by the way, I do appreciate what they've done. Oftentimes I butt heads with them, but I looked at her comments. Thank you so much for what you did. And I know you had Rebecca. You talked to Rebecca yesterday too.
Yeah, I did. And for those who want a slightly deeper dive into it, that's a podcast I suppose you could listen to as well. But the point is that where Democrats abroad is good is they just have a broad reach, right? And so, they sort of, say, all right, it's time, get up, middle of the night, let's send in these comments. Well, so basically the response to this came down March 1st. And there were, as far as I can tell, there were 4 groups, individuals, what have you, who made substantive comments. And then there was, what they called this collection of Americans abroad who were complaining about the PFIC treatment. And what was interesting about it was that they responded very directly to the 4 groups that made specific comments: CEAT, ACA, Democrats abroad, and another one whose name escapes me. And then they responded generally, at the end too. They sort of treated all the individual comments as a group by itself. And what they said was this: look, we can't change the law. We can't change the law. Now, I would say my own view of that is that's a relatively narrow. I agree they can't change the law, but the law appears to delegate a good deal of regulatory authority to them, right? So, here we again have this question. Here again we have this question of, what's the limit of the regulatory authority? But here's the bottom line, They made a couple changes. The first change they made was, the one that I talked about a moment ago. The second thing they did, and I don't know if this is good or bad, this is debatable, but in response to Democrats abroad, they've agreed to include in publication 54 that a foreign mutual fund or ETF might be a PFIC. Now, I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's a second result coming from this. But they also said this, and I think this is what the key point is. They said that, look, we get this as a problem, although not quite in that language. They said what you need to do is go out and initiate somehow a formal rulemaking process, and that's the appropriate context to raise this issue about, the treatment of foreign mutual funds and that sort of stuff. So, that's good news. That's actually very good news because, that provides the roadmap for the next step, right? And, I was discussing this in that podcast yesterday with Rebecca, in fact, about the necessity of that. I mean, I don't know where that goes, when it goes, or who rolls it out, or what combination of people or groups roll it out. But it is very, very clear that that's the next step. So, I mean, that's where we are with that. Now, the way I see this, I think in terms of getting this stuff changed long run, because of the advice to figure out how to get in under the rulemaking process, is maybe positive. But in the short run, I think that a lot of tax preparers are just going to say, look, Treasury's response has proved positive that foreign mutual funds are PFICs, and you better file your 8621. That's where I think a lot of this may go. Final point I would add is this, that there is no penalty for failure to file the 8621, interestingly. I've never heard of anybody. This really seems to me to be, sort of a dealer's choice issue, right? I mean, you decide whether you have a PFIC, and, if so, you're required to report it for sure. If it is, and this requirement exists independently of any requirement to file a tax return. But there's no there's no penalty. And hold that one there. Just move down a little bit. Okay, so yeah, sorry, or up rather. Okay, so stop. Well, so I'm quoting, this is actually from the first paragraph of their response. They talk about the purpose of these to discourage U.S. from investing in foreign funds. I mean, it's as though they don't even know that, these are not foreign to U.S. citizens living abroad. They say the laws in 1291 to 1298. And they say I do not have discretion to modify this stuff. I don't know about that. But they say without a proper and formal rulemaking process, that's a clear invitation, right, to undergo that. The good, the ugly. So in closing, here we go. What did I say, the ugly? Well, the ugly is it's the specific admission that, these things are designed to, interfere with your ability to invest, right? No question about it. Deliberate attempt to damage.
Well, I would say there's a deliberate attempt, but where is it exactly coming from?
Well,
there's a deliberate intent. Well, John, I know you
coming
have
from Congress.
Not really. I wouldn't say so. I actually would disagree, because I look at here's the Treasury responses, okay, and here's all the responses, right? And so we go through here to say, hey, look, these are all really big problems with them, too burdensome, too complicated. And the thing is, you just said 1,100 people commented on the whole issue of mutual funds and PFICs. Now watch this. I'll do a Control F. Want me to do it?
Sure.
Here you go. Okay, here we go. Provide an exception for U.S. bona fide invest in any mutual fund or pension plan organized under the country of residence. Okay, look at this. This is what it says. This sentence here, the authority to collect information with respect to PFICs in Form 8621 comes from sections 1291 and 1298 and regulations thereunder. The regulatory PFIC rules have been promulgated with the statute authority given to Congress by Treasury by Congress under sections 1291 and 1298. This comment requires amendments to the current regulations. The IRS and Treasury do not have discretion to modify such regulatory requirements without a proper formal rulemaking process. Now look at this, What this comment assumes, providing an exception for investing in any mutual fund or pension plan organized in the country of residence. What the response doesn't say is that a mutual fund is a PFIC.
Correct.
It does not. And none of these comments will say a mutual fund is a PFIC. And so what the Treasury response is like, you're not asking the right question. You're not asking, they won't answer the question. And now let me just get to, and as I said, I last year I had a $10,000 PFIC challenge. Anyone who could prove that a foreign mutual fund or ETF is automatically a PFIC. And here's really where I get angry. This is where I really get angry. There's an entire tax industry out there that's never been through a PFIC audit. I am one of the few tax professionals who has, and there's others. But this is the thing, every single one is missing. Every single person out there is saying that a foreign mutual fund is a PFIC, is they're looking at the naked ownership of it. But that's not what it's required to make a PFIC. There needs to be a corporation. There needs to be a corporation in which you have stock. That's what you have to look at, the regulations. You need to be issued stock. If you're investing in mutual funds, so if there's a financial expert out there, do you get the stock or does the pool get the stock? That's the difference. And that is what is driving me nuts about this. And when I look at these entire regulations, there's nothing in there. And this is the most important issue. This is the most important issue. And Treasury is acting like it doesn't know. Oh, what could you be talking about? And they're acting blind. And so they're just like, oh, no, but we can't change these statutes. We can't change them. We can't change them. That's not answering the question. The question is the naked ownership of a foreign mutual fund by default a PFIC? And there's nothing. And I'm going to get you the one document on IRS.gov, because the instructions to 8621 certainly don't say it. The instructions to Form 8621, if you search for a mutual fund, you'll find nothing. The instructions don't even have it, right? So how are you to know? And really, where do people get the idea that foreign mutual funds are PFICs? And there's only one place, and that's the tax industry. That is the tax industry. That is where they get it from. So that's basically the problem. And then I would say this is where also it comes from. Here's a law review article. This is a law review article that accepts, and this one's very influential in pushing the claim. And I looked at this years ago, and there's incredible claims in the footnotes. I put this link to this article in there. There are claims made that aren't in the law. They're citing the law. They're citing 26. She's citing 26 USC 1297 to say that it says incredible. It says right there, and let me go to the footnote. She's claiming. She says that 26 USC 1297A defines what is considered PFIC, which is true. But she also says in here that it says a foreign mutual fund is defined in the statute as it. And doesn't. No, it doesn't. Not at all. Because the instructions don't do it. The instructions don't say it is. So what has happened is this is, again, the perfect example of the tax industry writing the rules. Writing the rules. The practitioners who actually examine, have gone through PFIC exams, know what a PFIC is. But we have an industry that is just like, oh, a foreign mutual fund because they're taking a little bit. Because look, folks, you can have a PFIC if you have an interest-bearing account. A PFIC is when you have stock in a company where someone is buying and managing assets for you on a passive basis. The purpose of the PFIC regime was to frustrate and make it difficult to have a hedge fund overseas if you're an American person. That was the entire purpose. It had nothing to do with foreign mutual funds, and John and I covered that. So I think one of the other things too is 8621 doesn't have a penalty, and then there is no international practice unit on PFICs. Go to IRS.gov. There is nothing in there. They don't even have the practice guides are their audit, what they audit so that their examiners can work through something. They don't even have it. A PFIC is the most time-consuming thing for the IRS. You're going to need a GS-12 or higher, which are very few. And at the end of the day, there's no penalty for not filing an 8621. All there is a tax deficiency of which there could be failure to pay penalties, failure to file penalties assessed on. But this is for a massive amount of labor, the IRS could get a little bit of thing, or in a couple hours they could hit somebody with an FR penalty. Which one are they going to go with? So I would say that's my biggest problem with the PFICs. I know, John, you probably didn't want to get into that too much, but that's really that. This is just a perfect example of the tax industry driving the ship and telling people that foreign mutual funds are automatically PFICs, and I just don't see anything. Here's the one document on IRS.gov that has the word PFIC and mutual fund together. And it doesn't really define it. And it's not relevant to the discussion. It's not really relevant. Here's the one thing. So I might renew my $10,000 PFIC challenge. Because again, there's nothing on IRS.gov that says the bare ownership of a foreign mutual fund is a PFIC. But the tax industry, and this is what I would say the issue is. The issue is there's no doubt Treasury knows of the confusion, right? There's no doubt they got 1,100 comments, but their response is not answering the question. They could answer this very quickly. They could answer it, but Treasury doesn't want to give clarity to taxpayers because they'd rather have them confused and overpaying and whatever this is, whatever the reason is, whatever. Your guess is as good as mine. So that's kind of what I have on that is on that. Keith, what do you think about this?
I don't think much about this, meaning that I don't know what to say. All
right. Well, let me ask the question a different way, Keith.
Yeah, please.
So wouldn't you say this is kind of the biggest problem that you encounter? People call you all the time to figure out what they should do. The biggest problem we have is the issues of U.S. expats are incredibly well known.
Yes.
Right? We know what they are. And Treasury had the opportunity to offer clarity, and it intentionally did not offer clarity. It offered the opposite of clarity. It could have. And this is so my point is I might be putting words in your mouth here. Yeah, so I'll let you go ahead.
No, all I can say is that people with whom I've spoken around the world, when they go to a U.S. tax compliance professional across the board, it's consistent that the tax compliance professional states that every mutual fund is automatically a PFIC. That's consistent.
And and there's nothing on and it's repeated again and again. And the government was given an opportunity to clarify, hey, end it. Hey, you could end my $10,000 PFIC challenge right now. You have 1,100 comments. And I got to imagine those are the bulk of comments. I got to imagine those were the vast majority of comments. 1,100 comments on a regulation is a lot. That's incredible. And congratulations to Democrats abroad for getting that much. And thank you very much, Rebecca. That was really, really awesome to do. So this is sort of, I think, the key dilemma that America's abroad overseas have. It's just unmutable. Is this? Well, I mean, that's a big decision. Where I can invest my money is a really big decision. And here the Treasury is ruling by the tyranny of confusion. The complete tyranny of confusion, and it's intentional because these comments specifically don't address the number one issue of this PFIC regime.
Yeah. Okay. Look, I agree with you, Anthony, first of all, and I agree with you, Keith, second of all. All right. But I think there are a few very, very basic points here that need to be made. The first is this, that by definition, a PFIC requires a foreign corporation. Therefore, any kind of mutual fund that's operated through a trust or some non-corporate entity will not qualify. That's the first point, okay? So the debate really is not whether mutual funds are PFICs or not. The debate is whether mutual funds that are operated by something that would meet the U.S. definition of a corporation is a mutual fund. That's what the debate really is about. Now, the next point I want to make is this. Keith says, well, you go to tax preparers all around the world, they give the same answer. Well, look, let's just pause for a minute. I mean, or at least you, supervisor, you know about tax preparation in whatever capacity, right? Okay, but I mean, the point is this. You know as well as I do that very, very few, that no tax preparer will invest the time to analyze an individual thing to determine whether it's a PFIC. They won't do it because they don't have the time to do it. The second thing is that only a very small percentage of them would even know how to do that, right? So they don't understand the issue. So what this has turned into is, I think sort of, a dealer's choice type of issue. Do you want to file these things or not? Unless you have some very, very clear belief or evidence, and I don't know how any mere mortal could understand this, that this stuff is a PFIC or not, right? Now, where it becomes a very difficult issue, and I see this all the time, is on expatriation, filing the 5 years of compliance. What are people supposed to do? That's where it becomes a problem. People, I've had, people over the years. Look, I'm not, me, I'm not going to be aggressive telling people that, about they need to do this or that particularly, right? On this issue. I think it's, it's very much an open issue, but there are a lot of people who, once you explain to them they have to certify 5 years of compliance, are going to err on the side of certification, and file the 8621, Now, so the real question, Anthony, is how do you resolve the question of whether, a garden variety mutual fund is a PFIC or not? Okay, and I think we need a separate podcast on that, probably to focus on that. But I think the issue is this, right? Remember that let's say that you have, say, Templeton Growth Fund. I always use that example, which was actually organized in Canada. And by the way, I'm sure it was organized in Canada to avoid the U.S. tax regime. Okay, obviously, right? And Sir John Templeton renounced in 1964 to avoid the U.S. tax regime, right? But so the point is you form a corporation and then the corporation markets the mutual fund. The corporation owns the shares in the individual stocks. So then the question becomes, well, what is the PFIC, right? The PFIC arguably is the base corporation that owns the stocks. I think that's what the argument would be. But look, it's a technical argument. It is well beyond the ability of 99% of tax preparers in the world. So, my view of it is that I would pay absolutely no attention to what your tax preparer says on this issue. None at all. What the hell do they know? Number one. And number two, to actually get into, whether a specific product that you own is a PFIC. The first question is, is it organized under something that the U.S. would consider to be a corporate entity? And remember, that's different from how it's defined in the country, right? Because, you need to get into issues of, limited life, like it's a dog's breakfast of problems, okay? And, whatever. Anyway, look, this continues to be a problem. At a bare minimum, I think the number of responses to this have made it impossible for the U.S. government to pretend this doesn't exist. That's a good thing. That's the good, I guess. So you move on from here. I mean, there's a saying, it's come from the Marines: the difficult we do today, the impossible takes a little longer. Well, this has achieved something. Okay, it has achieved something, and now the question is, how to get this into the formal rulemaking process thing, right?
Yeah, I do think. Yeah, I think this was great success. John, should we let you go right now?
Yeah, I'll see you in a half hour. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So John's going to be back at 8:30. We're going to have a new podcast. So you're going to have to go back to that. We're going to stop this one because we're going to be talking about that Edelman indictment, which is huge. John's going to get prepare an outline. So we'll see John in a little bit. Thank you, John. All right. So it's just me and Keith right now. I think John's hopping off.
Just you and me.
Just you and me for now. There he goes. Okay. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So our next topic, Keith, that we're going to be talking about, let me get to my outline here because we have so much going on. Where is my outline? Okay. Our next topic
is about the $200 cash.
Oh my God. Right. Yeah. The $200 cash.
Yeah. And that one actually, Anthony, is an interesting one because I'm not up to speed on that one like I am with Social Security.
All right.
So,
well, let me set it up for you and the audience. So you're the perfect fish out of water here, Keith, right?
Exactly.
So let's talk about what happened. All right. So when you go, let's say that you want to send some money to your family overseas or someone overseas. And you want to send, let's just say $200.
And when you say send, do you
use like MoneyGram?
Or even PayPal or
you're going into a bodega or something like that. They have MoneyGram, Western Union, and there's probably other services.
Or a wire transfer or anything.
Whatever.
Like that.
So you go in there with your $200 and you're like, yep, I want to send this to my mother. It's her birthday. She needs it. Well, what's going to happen now if you're in particular targeted countries on the border is that because to fight money laundering and drug trafficking and all that bad thing, your $200 US now must be reported on a FinCEN form 104. A FinCEN form 104 in these particular jurisdictions. And now it's not the person who is handing the money over, but rather it's the person who's sending the money overseas. That person has a FinCEN 104 obligation, and if they don't do it, if they miss this $200 report, and they do it as a pattern, they could, if they do it a couple times, they could be penalized up to $100,000, be set in jail because of the $200. So this is really the Treasury doing what it does best and really helping us out, crack down on crime because we're focusing on $200 in cash on the border. Meanwhile, everything else in the government is fine. Right. Everything else in the government is fine, even though we're finding, billions and trillions of dollars stolen. But here's Treasury focusing on really small dollar things. And I mean, here it is, right? That $200, you're going to combat the drug cartels and stopping the flow of deadly drugs.
Well, let me ask you this. A couple questions, Anthony. So if I understand correctly, it's the person who is sending cash, correct?
Yeah, you're going in cash, right? You're bringing in.
So it's not someone who goes into their PayPal account and sends $200 to somebody in Mexico.
No,
it's cash.
It's cash.
Okay.
It's $200. So
now the other thing I wanted to mention is I agree with you as far as money laundering, but I think it's also a way to take a look at illegal immigration. Who's sending money from the United States into Mexico, and to see who that person is sending money. Are they a legal resident of the United States or not? I think that's another aspect of it.
You might be right, Keith. But what I'm thinking about is this is just basically harassing. It's harassing a politically unpopular group of people. These are likely going to be Mexican people in these zip codes, right? And these are likely going to be Mexican people who are sending small dollar figures to Foreign countries. Well, you're sending it out, and so it's a way just to make it the process difficult. I mean,
But it's really key countries. Is it for all foreign countries? Or
it's any foreign countries. But if you look at the zip codes, it's in California and Texas, right? If you look at the zip codes, well, who's going to be there?
Yeah,
who's going to be there. So this is just it is just pure harassment by the government. There can't be any. And I mean, they're really saying with a straight face that, hey, by requiring FinCEN Form 104 on cash transactions of $200, we're going to take down those drug cartels.
Yeah.
I mean, this is absurd. This is absurd. And this is, and I mean, this is just, I think the government going off the rails. So yeah, that's what we have here. If anyone has any other ideas, what could be driving this incredibly regressive policy. Oh, I did see a comment. Someone's mentioned it's like, hey, look, the original amount was $10,000, and if we adjusted that for inflation, we're at like $86,000. So if we took a look at the intent of the law, everything else is adjusted for inflation. But when it comes to reporting, oh no, they're going to stick to that $10,000 threshold as it was set in 1970.
1971 or 70.
But yeah, well, the Bank Secrecy Act started as a currency act. So they changed it in later years to say it was the bank secrecy, but it really started as that. So I think we have just really a government out of control. Who asked for this? Who was the constituency? I want to know who was the constituency. Where do I find them? To say, was it the Democrat Party that said, hey, you know what we need? We need to make sure that people who are using cash $200, there's some form of half aisle and it's not done. People need to be ruined. Was it Republicans who said that? I want to know. Who was it? Who was this entity that said we need to do this? Rather, it's the government. The government is its own constituency, and that's the biggest problem.
When did this come into play? When? Just recently?
This was just done.
Just done.
This was just done in March last week.
Well, you have your answer on who's at play. I mean, who's in power right now?
Well, I'm not sure who is because I'm not really. Yeah, I don't know who's in power, but I know it's not the American people.
Well, no,
I know that for sure.
Yes, but who's in power in Congress?
Who is, right?
Yeah, is this something that was passed by Congress or a new regulation?
This is okay. To answer the question, Keith, great question. So there's a law in here is the 31 USC 5314. There is in this law, and I just saw it does allow the regulations to create a special area if it's needed. So it is actually, believe it or not, it is actually authorized by statute. I mean, Treasury often does what it wants to do, but there actually is, and that's what Congress does. It gives these carve-outs to say, hey, we're going to just let the president decide all these things, and so much of the law is abdicated to the executive, and we've seen that. And this is one of the big things we've mentioned on previous podcasts: how Donald Trump can end the IRS on his own. He can end it on his own because the law gives so much power to the executive. The law doesn't define individual; it actually doesn't define a trade or business. So the regulations do. The regulations can change everything about the tax code because it's so poorly written. That's generally how things work. Congress creates a huge law and then just abdicates power, doesn't look at it, it's not interested, and the executive could do whatever they want. And there's no review. And that's really what we have. So I really, I don't recall President Trump saying on the campaign trail, I recall him saying that he was going to get rid of the IRS. That's what I recall. Now, this is obviously
the Department of Education,
right. In Department, I heard him saying a lot of pretty things. But not everybody might think these are pretty. But boy, it seems like we were promised less government, but we get a lot more. We get a lot more government thanks to Donald Trump and whoever's running the show. I actually don't think it's Donald Trump. I actually don't think he's actually calling the shots. This doesn't, he's all over the place and he's clearly manipulated. Or I wouldn't say clearly manipulated. I think that's up to interpretation, but I believe he's manipulated. I don't think that he knows. Again, what does he know? Did he even know that he signed in a law that transition tax in 2017? Does he even know? He couldn't possibly understand that law. I didn't understand it when it was passed. It only took wait, what happened here? So whatever it is, MAGA is not looking so good. MAGA, not so good, MAGA. Seems like empty promises, empty promises on this one, which I think we can go to our next topic, Keith, because we're running a little short on time. And this is something you happen to have some some knowledge about, right?
Yeah.
We want to talk about, here we go. Thank you. There we go. Mr. MAGA. Mr. MAGA is just on the same page of everybody who he said was the bad guy. Mr. MAGA is on the same exact page. This is not what people voted for, but boy, it's interesting. We always get the same thing no matter who we vote for. Isn't that amazing? Anyway, so Keith, now, Donald Trump is also working his magic in Social Security. And
well, he is, but it's Elon Musk with Doge.
Well, he's also,
Right, but that's to be more specific, if you will. And as far as the firing, or I should say gutting, of particular agencies, not only are they doing a number on the IRS, but they are gutting the Social Security Administration. And I have a relative who is high up in the Social Security Administration, particularly in cybersecurity, and that department is being gutted as well as 50% of the Social Security Administration is being gutted. Now, mind you, it's been difficult to get anything done with Social Security prior to the gutting, if you will, but at least things can be done. And specifically for Americans overseas, what is happening is that you can't get in touch with anyone at all. And even the Social Security individuals who are in the federal business units are being fired as well. So you have a situation where, sure, some things can be done online, but when you're an American overseas, there are a lot of things that can't be done online, like changing bank accounts or applying even for Social Security or talking to somebody at Social Security. It has now become impossible, and it's not going to get any better. So it's a major problem. It's a major problem, especially for Americans overseas who rely on Social Security as a large chunk of their retirement.
So this is going to impact Americans overseas more than,
of course,
because you don't have it. You're right. You don't have a place you can go. So you're going to have to find so this U.S. government that wants to tax you on your worldwide income won't provide you services in where you live.
Right.
U.S. taxing jurisdictions everywhere.
Right.
But U.S. said, you know what? We're not going to do this. So this is really the unfairness this is the classic Americanism.
Right. And also, think about it. It's money that you've paid into Social Security.
Yeah.
When you were working in the United States.
Right.
Okay. Yep. And now it's hard for you to get that money or make any changes that need to be done on an administrative basis. It's becoming more and more impossible. So it's like, what does the E in Doge? Efficiency. Well, where's the efficiency when you can't even contact the people you need to contact at Social Security? And the other concern I have is by gutting also the cybersecurity of the Social Security Administration, that just opens it up for, hackers, for ID theft, etc. So it's a major problem.
Well, back to what we were just discussing, Keith, on this here, we're talking about, when you're talking, come on, Department of Government Efficiency. Here's your Treasury Department requiring a FinCEN Form 104 for a cash transaction of $200.
Right. Right.
Oh, how efficient that is. Oh, my goodness. And I would go, and Borchel's got a great comment here. I got to mention this one here. Even people that think Elon Musk runs the show are wrong, in my opinion. We should look at people like Peter Thiel and pass them on for true show leaders. Well, actually, Borchel, this is what I would say. Who runs Peter Thiel? There's our answer right there. Because exactly, Elon Musk never made a dime in his life. He glommed onto things. He runs 10 multi-billion-dollar companies and then has time to post and do all these things. He's clearly an actor. Elon Musk can't do any of these things. He's the whiz kid, and I believe he's obviously a government agent now, but I believe he's been a government agent for a while.
Yeah, he's got these 20-year-old minions who are going into these agencies.
Well, and who even knows?
Well, I know this. just from my relative.
Oh,
who
so
was
you
at
actually
the
can
Social
say
Security.
that. Oh, so you actually know.
Yes, yes. And the thing is that they're not just firing probationary employees. They are firing people who are not on probation as well. And
Yeah.
that's the big misnomer right there. And keep in mind, these probationary employees are not people who are just started their job, let's say at the Social Security Administration. But if you get a promotion, you're under probation again in your new position. So they're being fired as well. So they are gutting the Social Security Administration. And there's no plan of action on what they're going to do vis-a-vis efficiency. People are stuck. And when you're far away from the United States, it makes it that much more difficult.
And it is. It seems here's we're getting some comments here. I don't know if you're going to appreciate, but I do.
That's
We're getting
okay.
some great
Go ahead.
comments. New followers, Sherry. I think you and I could be friends here. I really do. I appreciate this. And this is really the problem that we have. Is a lot of people understand what's actually happening in this world. A lot of people understand who actually controls the drug cartels. A lot of people understand who actually controls the government. And a lot of people know that the number one currency for these people is access to children to abuse. And that is actually what we're run by. That is actually the truth. And more and more people are seeing that. I'm not alone. Sherry understands that as well. Maybe other people will see it. Who are we really ruled by? Who are we? I mean, really? I mean, we're the most absurd laws. Look, we talked about this in the first segment. This huge, horrific tax law, we won't give any clarity on. Why? We have huge data collection. Why? Who asked for it? We have all these government policies. Every single time we want something, we're ignored. Who really runs the show? Why are things the way they are? And look, we won't see the Jeffrey Epstein files. Why? Because it implicates, right. And that's what we're talking about. We won't see the Jeffrey Epstein files because it implicates the entire government. This entire criminal conspiracy that tortures us and psyops us, we won't see it.
And what they do is a distraction of not releasing the Jeffrey Epstein files. As a distraction, they release the JFK assassination files. You see what I mean?
Right, and it's a little, a little drip on that too, which was interesting because we did see some things.
I mean, we're getting
too.
off topic, but I'm just.
But essentially, but I don't know if we really are. Are we really getting off topic? Or are we talking about what's really happening? We have a government that's intentionally terrorizing us. Financial terrorism is the way of the United States government, and then regular terrorism is as well.
Right. But what I'm saying is that the focus is not where it should be. The focus should be if you're going to get rid of people, the Social Security Administration, because it's too top heavy, let's say, okay, that's fine.
Right, yeah,
but don't do it to the detriment of the American people. And that's what's happening.
Well, I think it's just becoming more clear how much the United States government is the enemy of American people and also the world. I mean, I'm trying to imagine the country that wouldn't have the moral justification to attack the United States. All the crap we pull, all the bombs we drop. How many wars has China started in the last 40 years? No, the big enemy of China. It's us. It's us, and that's really what's happening. And so I think that's we're just seeing how divorced. And I think and this is what was this is my red pill moment as a tax attorney. I saw firsthand. I'm like, this is not anything we asked for. Now I do. Oh, Sherry, thank you, Sherry. Please share, share. And by the way, and everybody, as Keith and I, we're gonna hop off very. Borchell has this, and maybe you're so cybersecurity is basically Borchell saying it's kind of an open book, and I don't know if you're whoever this is would he agree with that? It's kind of like it's not good where it is right now.
Say that one more time.
So the cybersecurity and Social Security, and I know, and I don't want to diminish your relative, but what would he say how secure the system is right now? Has he said anything to you on that?
Well, I mean, he does his best to ensure that the security is in place. It's not perfect, and there's always vigilance. But when you're firing the people who oversee cybersecurity, then it's just going to get worse.
You might have
there's nobody there standing guard.
Yeah, no, people are monitoring firewalls all the time. It's a 24-hour day job, and Yeah.
And there's always attacks that happen, and you have to monitor it 24/7.
This is just going great here, isn't it? Yeah, and I would just say this, the one thing that did come out in the JFK file release is that most certainly the CIA orchestrated the attack through the help of probably Israel, through the help of
I don't know.
That's definitely in there. That's definitely in the release. It's definitely in there.
It would be good to put the source there because I haven't seen anything like
that.
No,
there's a couple. All right, they're going around. No, but there's definitely, and that's what was actually redacted. The CIA was most critical about redacting Israel from the things, and that's what was released. So whatever it is we know it's an international conspiracy, and we know the CIA, Israel's involvement. Okay, maybe we don't know, but we know the CIA totally did it. So our own government assassinated a sitting president. That's a coup d'etat. So if that government would do that, what else would they do? Well, they would do everything else they're doing because they are the enemy of the American people. That's just where it is. Oh my God! Yeah, right. All right. So Sherry, you're sending us your lawyer, so he's aware of the situation for a second. Oh, thank you, Sherry. That's so awesome. All right. So Keith and I are going to drop off now, okay? Because we have some big news we want to cover. We want to make it a standalone podcast. We're going to pick up at 8:30, and we're going to talk about that. So if there are questions you didn't get to here, you probably can ask them in that one too. But John's working on the presentation, and I do know some about the story. My first reaction when anyone is arrested or indicted for something big and nasty is assume they're the good guys because this government.
Let the audience know what the next podcast is going to be, Anthony.
So there was a big indictment, and really one of the biggest tax evasion indictments. And I was actually just thinking about this the other day. I said, I know the government has in tax indictments, but usually it's maybe $1 million, $2 million. Where's the really big fish? Because I know, and trust me, I also know there's many billionaires. I happen to have firsthand knowledge about the massive tax evasion that certain people are able to get.
Here's the question, and I had a conversation with John yesterday. Is it really a tax evasion indictment or something else?
Oh.
Stay tuned.
So thank you very much for that's a beautiful tease, Keith. All right, folks. So we're gonna hop off this right now. Again, we're gonna resume at 8:30 Eastern time to talk about a really crazy case that may even give us even more to think about this government. So we'll see you there. If you do subscribe, it might be a good time to subscribe right now so you can easily find when we go live at 8:30, so you have it. Okay, Borchelle, we're going to see you on that one. It's going to be great. John was, before our pre-show today, he's like, Anthony, we're going to have to do this. I don't care. And he was like, all right, John, all right. It means that much to you, so I know it's going to be great. All right, we'll see you all soon. Thanks again, everyone. See you next time, which is in 11 minutes.